Welcome back, guys. It's Jason with your Hopium free crypto channel. Today is another educational video, part of the Learn About Bitcoin and Crypto Trading series. I've got a playlist on the channel, which you can find a link to at the end of this video. So make sure you stick around for the duration of the video. Use the timestamps if you want to click forward or back at any time. Save it on a watch list so you can come back to it during the next stage of the bull market, so you can continue to implement what you're learning here. So without further ado, make sure you've hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, bell notification icon, follow me on Instagram and on Twitter for regular crypto updates and Q&A. Let's go ahead and jump into this video. Okay, so finding top altcoins for 2021 crypto bull market, bear market resistant to Bitcoin. This sounds like a huge, bold claim, but obviously I'm going to explain what it is I'm talking about and how I go about finding these with a list of questions and how I use those within the chart. As always, it's important to understand where I'm coming from because these might be completely different to the way you view the market. So here are just a few goals and notes that I have when it comes to how I look for these opportunities in the market. I reduce my emotions. That's one of my big goals. I want to reduce the emotions. I don't want to get hyped up and caught up with the trend of the market and everyone getting sucked into these altcoins at the end. We see that across YouTube, across influencers, sucking people in right at the end. I want to reduce the risk. I want to increase my reward. And I want to reduce wasted time on news. News events typically don't pan out for a longer term investment. So if you're looking for something short term, news might be a good thing for you. News is great. We obviously look at it. It makes sense for a particular purpose. But when I'm looking for something that I can hold for a period of time, maybe days, weeks, maybe even months, depending on how long this lasts, news pieces generally don't hold their worth through that period. Great projects may still fall short of expectations. So there are some projects which sound fantastic on their fundamentals. They should stack up. They're doing good things. There's nothing wrong with the company, but then they just fall short of price expectations for many, many reasons. Of course, this is not financial advice. You guys would know that by now. I'm not saying these coins must do X. So based on all of the questions that I asked myself to get to a point of figuring out what it is that I want to invest in, even at the end of the day, they don't have to do that. We can't set these massive expectations of anything, but what I'm using is what I've seen in the past to work, and often it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's part of investing. There is no guarantees. So the other thing is I'm not a passive investor. I don't set and forget about these. I don't want to do that because what I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, and if I look at history over the last 10 years, a lot of these cryptocurrencies will basically trend towards zero. They don't go to zero, but they trend towards zero against their Bitcoin value. They have a big spike and then eventually they fade. If I'm a passive investor, I lose money playing that game. But if I'm active investor, meaning I'm looking at my investments, I'm tracking them, then I can make changes in my portfolio if I start to see these cryptos fade out. They'll have a big run against Bitcoin and then fade. That's what we're going to look at today as well. That is to reduce my risk, which I said here is one of my goals. The other thing is I will track my investments regularly. The market can correct. So these things can go up, they can go down, they can have longer runs up, but then they can correct back. This doesn't mean they have to go in a straight line. On top of that, your starting point may be different to mine, meaning I look at lows and I want to measure the range of how far this crypto has moved. You might be looking at it day to day. And I noticed that in comments where people say, you said it should have done this, but they might just be looking at it day to day. They think it needs to go up the next day whenever I talk about something. And I'm looking at them in a slightly longer time frame, and I look at it in terms of cycles as well. So do you want to buy into momentum or declines? Meaning, do you want to keep buying the dip all the way down regardless of how far it drops? Or do you want to wait for that bottom to form and then watch the price start to break out through some highs so that we have a confirmed uptrend? These are different ways of investing. Some people are happy to keep buying into the lows. Others want to buy as the market moves so that their money isn't left sitting dormant and basically getting lower and lower. Now, onto the questions which are going to help us find those top altcoins for the next stage of the bull market. These are the things that I've gone through, asked myself, checked them on the charts, and these are the things that I'm happy with in terms of how I'm going to invest. So how am I defining a bear market resistant cryptocurrency? How did the crypto perform versus Bitcoin during the May-June crash? Did the cryptocurrency crash really hard or just a little bit, and it's finding its floor at the moment? What does it look like? For example, Polkadot, ticker being DOT. This is one of my holdings, and we are only looking at all of these altcoins against their Bitcoin value. This is to reduce our risk. So DOT performed poorly during this crash. All the way into July, it fell by about 65, 68% from the top, compared with something like Cardano, which only fell about 38% and is now up a fair bit. And it's probably only down about 18% from the top. So if we take a measure from there, about 20% from the top. Not bad going during a bear market. So it's held up reasonably well against its Bitcoin value. That's what we want to see. The next question is, where is the crypto sitting versus Bitcoin? Above or below 50%? This is similar to how is it sitting on its moving average? Has it bounced off a moving average? I look at 50% because this is Gann analysis. And as we can see here, we're using the major high and the major low. 50% comes out at 2,700 Satoshis. And we are above the 50%. That's a stronger position. Compared with, again, DOT, I'll be picking on DOT here, it's below its 50% and it has a lot more resistance to get through. Of course, we want to get big gains. If there's resistance above us, it's going to be hard for that cryptocurrency to push above that resistance. This isn't anything against either project. This is just how I review all of the projects that I'm invested in. So the next question I asked, to define a bear market resistance altcoin, one of these fantastic altcoins that I can invest in, is the crypto making higher lows versus other cryptos? This shows the strength versus the weakness. So let's pick on Polkadot again. You can see the highs, they're getting lower and lower and lower, and the lows are getting lower and lower and lower and lower. That is on a downtrend. That's just straightforward. It's nothing to do with the project fundamentals. It has everything to do with what investors are actually doing in the market. They are telling us what they're doing, and they are telling us that they have been selling this project, while something like ETH, investors have been buying. We have a higher low form in late July. We have a higher high form in early August. The trend is now up for ETH against Bitcoin, whereas Polkadot, the trend is down and it is trying to break to an uptrend. So it's lagging behind the strength of Ethereum. That's as simple as it is. We're looking for where the trend is moving to first. And the bonus points go to making new all-time highs in their USD value and, if they can, in their BTC value at the moment, during a period where Bitcoin is below its all-time high, where the market has relatively had a bearish sentiment to it. If this crypto is going up in a bear market, it has the potential to have more strength during a bull market. And Luna is the example here. You can see on the chart of Luna against Bitcoin, the value has just peaked to a new all-time high. This, of course, is a double top, so we need to see what happens from this point. But the point I'm making here is these coins have gone to new all-time highs, and against its USD value, it is on the way to making new recent highs. So it needs to get above the resistance levels first, but overall, that's a pretty strong trend during a period where the market has been relatively down and a lot of negative sentiment. So if what you're looking at meets all of these criteria, you're probably looking at a great cryptocurrency. If it doesn't meet these criteria, in particular, these top two, and of course, whatever you are comparing to, say you've only got a set amount of money to invest and you're comparing crypto A with crypto B, you need to go with the one that's stronger. So these are the two most important ones. Then compare the cryptos that you have to one another. Then for bonus points, if it's making new highs, it's in a breakout of its own. It is doing its own thing. That's generally a good thing. Next thing I want to look at for finding great altcoins for the next stage of the bull market is the market sentiment. Is there excitement for a cryptocurrency? Now, this can apply to any cryptocurrency at any market cycle. So save this video on your watch list and come back to it if you want to learn a bit more at a future date. The excitement. So we have excitement for Cardano. Even if you hate Cardano, you never want to buy it, you think Charles is a moron, you can't disagree that there is excitement for the project, which makes it much easier for the project to get onto socials and for people to continue to share it and people want to invest in it. There is just excitement for the project. Compared to something like Atom, like I've got here, Atom versus ADA. Did the crypto have a big social presence relative to other cryptos during stage 1 of the Bitcoin bull market? So stage 1, we could generally say it's from around the low. You might measure it from the low in March of 2020, or when we started to break out in around November, or when we started to break the highs in December. You pick your point, but essentially, which had a bigger social presence? And again, I don't think anyone can disagree that ADA had a bigger social presence than Atom, and that again shows in the charts. I have nothing against Cosmos. I actually owned some Atom, but I have consolidated out of it. I think it's a great project. It should do well, but the investors are telling me that they are not interested in Atom compared to other projects out there. And so you can see throughout 2020, it did nothing against Bitcoin value. Well, it actually went down against Bitcoin value, and we continue to struggle against any sort of gains that we see on our Bitcoin. Now, we compare it to something like ADA. Throughout 2020, ADA has been on the rise, and then 2021 again on the rise. So it's getting closer to its old all-time high against Bitcoin value. Whereas unfortunately for Atom, it's nowhere near its old all-time high. It's, again, nothing to do with the fundamentals of the project, or it might do. Maybe they're just not doing the right things by marketing. But it's hard to argue what the investors are choosing. And I want to be where the herd is during the period of the market going up. And then I want to get out before the herd really starts to understand what's going on with the project. So you probably came to this video expecting me to tell you which cryptocurrencies I pick for the next stage of the bull market. After all of those questions, this is what I have come up with. And if you're a follower of the channel, you're probably going to be familiar with a lot of these that I'll mention right now. And they are my low risk, low to high reward based on their market cap cryptocurrencies. These would be high reward in any other market, right? But in cryptocurrency, people will consider these to be low reward, things like Ethereum and Cardano, because their market caps are so much bigger than the rest of the market. So the 5 that I've got here based on those questions I just asked, and you can see them on the charts, is ADA, Cardano, Ethereum, FTX, Solana, and Luna. Out of these, I've spoken about the 4 of these on the channel extensively, and I have these going back months for Solana, individual videos on FTX, and we'll look at that on the chart. But Luna I haven't spoken about. It's something that I wish I got into earlier. But again, we can't be in everything. That has done extremely well. You've seen it on the chart. In terms of low risk, I would just be looking at it in terms of the market cap. And the market caps for these 3 are lower than ADA and ETH, which means that they have an easier time to rise to new higher prices. So let's just look at FTT on the chart. Now we need to answer these questions with FTT. How did it perform versus Bitcoin in the May-June crash, and where is the crypto sitting versus Bitcoin? Is it above, below 50%? FTT, how did it perform? Well, it bounced off the 50%. Is it above the 50%? Yes. That's how I like to make my plans. Super simple. I ask if-then statements. If this happened, what next? It's strong, it's weak. That removes the emotion, and that is one of my goals. If you remember back from our goals here, reduce the emotions. I want to reduce my risk. I want to increase my reward. I want to reduce wasted time. And you can quite clearly see that I literally had to answer 2 questions, and I can do that looking at the chart, and it took me about 5 seconds. You might have other questions that you need to ask yourself, go into more detail. That's a different story. We'll get to that in a moment. But that's how simple I want to make my plans so that I can execute on them very quickly. And should they go against me, something doesn't work out, I can quickly see how it was wrong and I can change my decision. So FTT is above both of these. May-June crash, it's doing well. It's above the 50%. Is this crypto making higher lows versus other cryptos? Well, we can definitely see it's making higher lows against itself. Is it making higher lows against other cryptos? We would then measure this against, say, Cardano versus FTT, so another crypto in our portfolio. And it is kind of making higher lows, but at the moment it's range bound. So I'm happy with that too, because that just means that the prices are generally increasing at about the same rate at slightly different times. Now for the bonus points, is the crypto making new all-time highs, USD and BTC? Well, not yet, but it's very close against its Bitcoin value. And against its USD value, it is also getting very close as well. So we're at about $51 now, and the previous all-time high was 63. So in terms of a percentage, from the top to where we currently are, it's about 18 or 19%. Not too bad within this bull market. Not only am I going to look at the low risk and high reward, I want to look at the high risk and high reward cryptocurrencies as well. Don't think you weren't going to not get some of the juiciness. So the juicy stuff I have here, high risk, high reward. These are a couple of things that I look at for these cryptocurrencies, and they might not even be on the market yet, as I've got here as the first point. A new altcoin's not on the market yet. Reason being is they have no, in this case, data and generally no live product. That allows them to have any sort of marketing and imagination to the public who want to buy it. There's no data to track. There's nothing to research. You can make up anything. That's generally what happens with a lot of these ICO projects and things that are just coming out. It's literally just marketing. So that's something that I want to see. The other thing is the altcoin, was the altcoin released after May 2021 or sort of during that bear market period? It's not going to have so much data, and it's not going to have that data tracked against its Bitcoin value either. So there is still that possibility of the imagination taking hold here. Something like EFI. It was something that I remembered came to my mind, and it's only had about 9 or so days live in the market. It went live, it got dumped, and now it looks like it's just trying to find its grounding, its footings. And potentially when the bull market comes back around, the strong bull, some of that might shift over to something like EFI, Affinity Token. This also meets some of the other criteria that I have with market sentiment. There was excitement for it. There might still be some excitement for it. Did the crypto have a big social presence? It is having a good social presence at the moment. It has a lot of big backers, and that's the sort of thing that I'd be looking at further for investigation for this sort of project to be a great long-term hold for the duration of the bull market and the altcoin season. So a big note on the high risk, high reward stuff is there is not much that you can really find out about the company. This is where all of the fundamentals come down to figuring out which cryptos to go with here. And I've done plenty of videos on fundamentals and how I'm looking for altcoins during altcoin seasons, which you can find on the channel under that playlist, which you'll find at the end of this video. Of course, it's high risk, potentially high reward, and we've covered that extensively. This was just an example for the video in terms of an altcoin that was released during the bearish period to show you what it looks like on the chart. There's just really not much that we can see, but it doesn't have too many resistance levels in front of it as well, which is a positive if we are looking for the token to moon. So that's my list on how I look for top altcoins to invest in for the next stage of the bull market. If we get another altcoin season and they're potentially Bitcoin bear market resistant, meaning that they don't fall so much against their USD value or their BTC value in comparison to the rest of the market. I want to keep myself relatively safe during those periods. I want to have liquidity in case I need to sell out of these cryptos. And I don't want to see them drop 90% against me at the drop of a dime. You know, all the liquidity is removed and I just can't get out of them. Bitcoin and Ethereum is my goal. That might not be your goal, but they're my goal to furthering my investment portfolio. And I want to make sure I am liquid to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So as I've got here, questions for you. This is not an exhaustive list of altcoins that will do well. I'm sure I'll get plenty of comments down below of people saying things that they like, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Do your altcoins meet this criteria, or did I miss any key areas that you would normally research yourself? And I'm primarily looking at charts here. I know there are fundamentals at play. And what are your key strategies to finding low risk, high reward cryptocurrencies? I'll leave those questions down below in the comment section. So make sure you check those out as well. Drop down to the comment section, leave your thoughts down there. It's always good to hear that. And make sure you've liked the video if you find some value from it. Save this on one of your watch lists if you want to come back to it to find altcoins. Subscribe to the channel, bell notification icon. Follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. There's a special on the Investor Accelerator membership. You can find a link to that down below as well. Join us over there to learn more about trading and investing, crypto, stocks, and real estate. And the last thing before I go is if you're in Australia and you haven't signed up to SwiftX already, check it out down below. They have a demo version, a portfolio that you can invest in. And as you can see here, we are back to break even now. After all of this time in a bear market, we started this in around mid-February at the peak, one of the peaks of Bitcoin, and holding Sol and ADA during this period and a lot of AUD or fiat, in this case you got USD, we're basically back at break even. So we can start to invest in some other small caps and large caps to get a move on this portfolio. I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, have more fun to get more done.